Good evening, everyone. It is March 2nd. Going to talk about what's going on the battlefield between Ukraine and Russia here. If you remember my last video, I spoke about what Russia will be doing after Avdiivka, and I said there would probably be 3 or 4 areas where Russia would focus on, with potentially 1 or 2 being their primary efforts to move forward against the Ukrainian lines. And I said in that video, there might be a rare case where they will assault all 4 areas, but it would come at huge costs in personnel and equipment. And it seems that Russia has taken that route. It seems that they are taking the initiative after Avdiivka and trying to push in 4 specific areas. And this is Robotyne, which is over in here. This is Avdiivka. They're pushing there. Bakhmut. And then the line that runs from Lyman to Kupiansk right here. So it seems like Russia is pushing on all 4 of these fronts, and it is coming at great cost. But they're doing this for a reason. They probably sense, as much of the world does, that the aid out of the United States probably will be approved in the next month or 2, because that discharge petition that is being pushed through by GOP members of the House, as well as the European Union, is now standing up and providing additional aid. So Russia is trying to take what it can as fast as it can. It has the initiative after Avdiivka. The Ukrainians have stated that they are going to be moving into a defensive posture, trading ground for lives, basically attriting the Russians as they slowly give ground. And when it comes to the totality of Ukraine, they have a lot of ground to give. And we're not talking about huge swaths of territory that the Russians are taking, but the Russians are taking territory nonetheless. So let's go ahead and zoom in on some of these areas. And I'll just start down here in the southern portion of the battlefield, where Robotyne, and this is all this purple. Every time you see purple, that is areas where Russia is likely taking ground. And this is the area where Russia would like to cut this off, because this was this little salient here that came out that pushed this way towards Tokmak was what Ukraine gained during their offensive. Again, not a huge amount gained here, but it was territory that was taken. So if Russia can take that back, it would be a major morale killer for the Ukrainians. And that is one area they are focusing, as I said in my previous video. Now we'll move over to another area where they are focusing heavily, and that is up in Avdiivka. And you can kind of see near Marinka and other places they are moving as well across the whole battlefield. This is because of the change in tactics, largely because of the lack of artillery that the Ukrainians have. But with Avdiivka being taken, originally this bulge started down here, came downward like this, and then slowly Russia has just chewed into that, moving outwards. And then the next area, as I said before, was Bakhmut. Moving up to Bakhmut, we can see that the Russians are building a buffer zone around Bakhmut. They're expanding outward away from the town to try to create some sort of buffer between the front line and the town, making it much more difficult for the Ukrainians to take in the future. And then finally, as we move upwards towards that Lyman to Kupiansk axis, you see small areas being taken, specifically pushing towards Lyman, in this area here, but also just mainly along this entire front line. There's been large assaults. Now, you may not see a lot of ground being taken, but basically the Russians are forcing the Ukrainians to try to spread their defenses out across the entire battlefield, and making it difficult for the Ukrainians to conduct resupply, conduct a refit, allow some of their soldiers to rest. And again, Russia sees blood in the water currently. Now, this doesn't mean that Russia is going to be driving all the way down and be taking Dnipro and Kharkiv and things like that again. It just means that the momentum is shifted in Russia's favor, largely because Ukraine is running out of ammunition. They're having to play very smart when it comes to how they're going to prosecute their defense. And as it stands, they are giving up territory for Russian lives and equipment, and we are still seeing huge amounts of deaths on the Russian side, as well as equipment losses, as we saw those Bradleys. If you saw those videos earlier today of those Bradleys absolutely wrecking BMPs and just killing dozens of Russian soldiers. So that's where the state of the battlefield right now. Until this aid comes, that is how Ukraine is going to fight. They are going to give ground little by little, while trying to attrit the Russians as much as possible.